I believe there are new forms of content coming, not only AI generated, because everyone's like, oh, it's all going to be AI generated. No, I think there's going to be a premium for human created, for human acting. We are still going to want some of that authenticity, and it might come as a premium. So we'll have new forms of creating these experiences. I think we're going to see a lot more IRL/virtual cross pop-ups of sort. I think we're going to see more of that convergence of physical and virtual. And then I see definitely with spatial video, even the fact that Apple has an Apple Immersive camera, like a new camera format for new video formats. I'm excited because I truly believe that if you're a good storyteller, you still have a place in this new era of AI. Ride the wave and survive. I don't know if traditional media as we know it survives, because I do think that the power is going down to community. And that's where I'm very bullish on creators and the communities they're building, even the community I run. I'm very bullish on that. And I think David Shingy from the advertising industry has said that niche is the new mass market. And I truly do believe that building community, a community that knows you, that trusts you, is incredibly important, because the future is about trust. It is about curation. So yeah, I think media is going to change in the idea of this mass market broadcast media.
This is the Media Machine, where media, business, and innovation intersect. Hi, I'm Johanna Salazar, and I'll be your host as we examine the future of content, technology, and entertainment through the lens of 4 key pillars: process, profit, people, and planet. Today on the Media Machine, I'm joined by Cathy Hackl, futurist, 5-time author, and the godmother of the metaverse. She's advised Nike, Walmart, Louis Vuitton, and Apple on how to build in virtual worlds, and now leads Future Dynamics, her innovation lab focused on AI, spatial computing, and the post-smartphone future. She's also the host of Adweek's Tech Magic and author of Spatial Computing, an AI-driven business revolution. Cathy, welcome to the show.
I am so thrilled to be here. So excited.
You've helped global brands like Walmart, Nike move into spatial commerce. What's your blueprint for media companies looking to monetize in the next wave where gaming, AI, and immersive tech are converging?
Well, so I don't think I have a blueprint per se that is like the same for everyone. I think every company has their own special needs or their own ideas and concepts that they want to implement. I do think there are certain things that I do across the board with all my clients, which is definitely try to understand where they currently are technologically wise and where they want to see themselves, right, in the next 5 to 10 years. Also looking at their consumers or the people that use their services or buy their products. Who are these people currently? Where are those people going to be in 5 years? Who could be new consumers? So that concept of next gen consumer or people that will need that service. I feel like at one point millennials were it, like everyone's like millennials. And now millennials are a thing of the past because we're older. So it's Gen Z, but now Gen Alpha, right? So it's, I think looking at who are their current consumers, who are their future consumers, all these sorts of things. So as far as the blueprint, like I don't have like all sizes fits all kind of approach. I always come and learn about those companies, what makes them tick, where do they want to be currently and technologically, where are they in their tech stack? That's another thing. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that, is like, what are they using currently? What are the systems they have? It can be a little complicated, especially if you're trying to implement like new commerce models, spatial commerce or commerce in the spatial internet, in gaming. There's a lot of things that need to change within an organization to make that happen. So understanding what are the restrictions that they have? What is the current tech stack? What are potentially new tools that they're going to have to use and implement? And, then you involve legal and procurement and a whole bunch of other things. So I'll have like a client say, oh, we want to sell things through the Vision Pro, right? That's a hypothetical, right? It's like, well, great, but let's look at how many people actually have the Vision Pro. Like, is that really going to be a profit driver for you? Or is this just more of a PR play? So things like that is truly analyzing what they're wanting to do. Does it make sense? And if so, in what context?
In your book, Spatial Computing, you do kind of lay down a foundation for companies to think about what is that blueprint that they need to consider. So what would you encourage listeners, viewers of this pod who are media executives or content creators to think about? Like, what's the most urgent takeaway?
Spatial computing as a term, people don't fully understand it. It is an evolving 3D-centric form of computing that at its core uses AI, computer vision, extended reality, and other technologies to seamlessly blend virtual experiences into someone's experience of the physical world. I think it's important for people to understand that we're not talking about one single device, right? Because when Apple came out with the Vision Pro and said, this is a spatial computer, then everyone's like, oh, that's what spatial computing is. Well, it's not one single device and it is not one single technology. Other people think spatial computing is virtual reality. And no, VR is one of the extended reality technologies that are part of spatial, right? I would start with like trying to understand that what we're talking about is the evolution of computing from desktop computing to mobile computing to now spatial computing. People are starting to look more at how AI is being used, but how AI is starting to be in the physical world. So whether it is humanoid robots that just ran a marathon in China, or whether it is, agentic AI in your glasses, like all those sorts of things are starting to happen a little bit more. So it's easier to have these conversations, but all of that is expanding computing into the physical world. In essence, that is spatial computing. If you think about what spatial computing, the physical world that we live in becomes a canvas, right? So what does that mean? How does that translate into what you do if you're a media company, for example?
We know that you've worked across Apple, Vision Pro, Roblox, Unreal, and in your recent piece for the World Economic Forum, you outlined how spatial computing is blurring the lines between digital and physical reality. What's your take on how this spatial layer will reshape how we produce, how we distribute, and how we consume content?
I think we're about to change a lot of things, right? I think we've already seen a big change with how we engage with our devices through generative AI. I, for one, don't go to Google as much anymore. I tend to use Perplexity or use ChatGPT. I feel like that has changed. Like my use of the web has changed. So that's the beginning of something related to how this all works. So in the article that you mentioned in the World Economic Forum, my premise is that the next frontier for AI comes in the form of hardware, comes in the form of robots, comes in the form of new wearables, comes in the form of whatever device it is that we end up using, because we're going to start to bring AI into a more useful world, or into our physical world to be more useful for us. So I think it's important for people to understand that the moment that we're in has changed how we engage with the internet. Just like our mobile phones changed how we engage with technology, we're at that shift again when it comes to human communication and human computer interaction. So what you're going to start to see is new devices that make it easier for us as humans to interact with our technology. I always give an example, and I know I use this in the book, but for example, the mouse. That's how most of us, if we're on our work computers, right, we're using our mouse. The mouse is a wonderful invention, right? But is it very human? Is this the easiest way for us humans to engage with technology? No, it's giving us carpal tunnel syndrome. And traveling with a mouse is not easy, so we have trackpads. So it's that whole thing. We are at the cusp, again, of changing how we interact with technology and how we interact with each other. What is happening as well is through gaming, through Unreal, like game engines, through 3D formats, whether it's Gaussian splats or photogrammetry, the evolution from 2D content to 3D content, right? So that in turn will enable new content formats and new opportunities for media companies, whether it is spatial audio, which has already been something that a lot of people have worked on, to spatial video that you can relive in 3D. We're about to change those experiences, right? And I think back in the day when you and I kind of met, there was that saying of like, it's no longer storytelling, it's story living and story doing. And I think that there has never been a time when that is closer to the truth than today.
I've usually been on the side of being the creator, being the producer. We are the ones creating the content, using these technologies. And, first we have to figure out how to do it. And then once we're in it, then we have to be creative. I remember the days when we were first learning how to create in virtual reality. You had to almost like build the technology, the hardware, as you were creating. So it really pushed our limits of creativity, which was really exciting for us. So on the Augmented Workforce book, you predicted how AR, 5G, and AI would reshape every dollar we make. Do you still believe this? Where are we now? Tell us a little bit, because you wrote this book a couple years ago.
I think it was ahead of its time. Does it impact every dollar? I don't know if every dollar, but if it weren't for good connectivity, I probably wouldn't have the business that I have, because I depend on my Wi-Fi, I depend on my phone and so many things to do business. Most of us knowledge workers do. And then I feel like AI has definitely hypercharged a lot of stuff. It's been crazy. So I would stand by that. I do think the book in general, as the idea and the concept of the augmented workforce, a workforce that can use a convergence of technologies to make themselves better, more productive, to do more tasks or do tasks that they weren't able to do before. I think that stands the test of time. I still see people use the term the augmented workforce, and I'm like, oh, I got a book titled that exactly. So I do think that we have never been as much of an augmented workforce as we are today in this current age, in this current moment of generative AI. AI, in my perspective, hypercharges this moment of tech convergence. We cannot understand the rest of what's coming without understanding this is about multiple technologies, whether it's AI, whether it is space technology, whether it's quantum, whether it's AR, VR, kind of all coming together in this moment of tech convergence and taking us to that next phase.
And you've written 5 books. Across the 5 books, is there any kind of prediction that came from one of your books that you think about and came to life or still hasn't come to life yet?
Yeah, I think my latest book, Spatial Computing, an AI-driven business revolution, was ahead of its time. We published about a couple months after the Apple Vision Pro launched. So I would have wanted to see more people buy the book, to be honest. I just think it was really early. We're still in this AI moment, generative AI specifically, where people are not thinking beyond that, beyond the large language models. I do think that as things progress and as we go from generative AI to agentic AI to physical AI, we are going to need new architectures and new models. They're going to need new forms of data. That's where this new hardware, like whether it's smart glasses, whether it's robots, whether it's AirPods with cameras, all these sorts of things are going to come into play. And that's going to force people to kind of think beyond just LLMs. I think it was Jan LeCun that said we cannot get to AGI, artificial general intelligence, just by large language models. And I truly do believe that. I think we're going to need new architectures, new models. So the next couple of years are going to be a crazy ride. If it's been crazy with just generative, I mean, agentic and physical are about to get very interesting.
I want to talk a little bit about the fact that you're a Latina, and you're one of the top leading Latinas probably in the world in this space. How are you carving out space for BIPOC creators, and what needs to change in the industry and how the industry defines influence and authority?
So one of the reasons I have been able to be successful in my career is because I had women, Latina women that I looked up to and I saw. So when I first did my pivot into the extended reality XR world, I remember seeing Evelyn Miralles. She's Venezuelan American. She used to run NASA's VR lab. And I saw Noni de la Peña, who is also Latina, as two leading figures in that space. And I eventually followed them, eventually met them. I've become friends. Like I would say Evelyn has in some ways become a mentor at times in the past. The saying is, if you can see it, you can be it. I knew I could become that because I saw it in front of me. I hope I become that beacon of hope or that lighthouse for other women, other BIPOC folks to be like, I can do that too. For me, it's a personal mission of being that person that people can see and be like, I want to be like her, or I can achieve this because she has achieved it. And then everything I do, I always think of my 3 kids, right? Who are half Latino, half Caucasian. I always look at them and I'm like, whatever I do, I want to do because it's going to make their lives better or with that optimism towards a better future. I know it's hard to remain optimistic at times in current moment of uncertainty, but I do believe I remain an optimist. And by optimist, I do not mean utopian. This is not popcorn and unicorns, right? But I think I need to remain an optimist to build better things for them and for their future. So I would say that those are the things I'm doing, is always with my kids in mind and always as if someone's looking at me, I might be that lighthouse that other women were for me. And I hope that I can shine a light and blaze the trail in front of them.
As a Colombian Latina, that's where I find my inspiration as well. I feel like there's not that many of us, and so we stick together.
Yeah. And I think in the XR space, there's so very few of us in like tech. 2% of Latino women hold jobs in tech. It's ridiculous. We should have way more, but
I
that's
know.
the reality.
I know. But then when you join Latinas in Tech, it feels like, wow, it's
I
massive.
know. We're
I love
everywhere.
it. We're everywhere. So you just mentioned utopian. You don't think that the future is either utopian or dystopian. You think that it's protopian. What is protopian? And what's the media industry's responsibility in shaping that future?
Yeah. So protopia is when you actually believe and see that technology can have a positive effect on society and that they can both work together in tandem for the betterment of humanity, right? Not always easy. There will be challenges. It doesn't mean that technology is going to solve all our problems, that it's going to be Ready Player One or that it's going to be Terminator, right? So it's kind of that balance of understanding that technology overall throughout history has helped us become better or enable certain things to be better or more efficient and to facilitate for us to be able to do other things. I remain very protopian about the future. Traditional broadcast media seems to be having a moment where they're not doing that great. But then you've got streaming who, some of them are doing great, some are not. The business case has been interesting there. I remain hopeful. And I said this to a media company the other day. I believe there are new forms of content coming, not only AI generated, because everyone's like, oh, it's all going to be AI generated. No, I think that there's going to be a premium for human created, for human acting. We are still going to want some of that authenticity, and it might come as a premium. So we'll have new forms of creating these experiences. I think we're going to see a lot more IRL/virtual cross pop-ups of sort. I think we're going to see more of that convergence of physical and virtual. And then I see definitely with spatial video, even the fact that Apple has an Apple immersive camera, like a new camera format for new video formats. I'm excited because I truly believe that if you're a good storyteller, you still have a place in this new era of AI, and you will still be able to ride the wave and survive. I don't know if traditional media as we know it survives, because I do think that the power is going down to community. That's where I'm very bullish on creators and the communities they're building, even the community I run. I'm very bullish on that. And I think David Shingy from the advertising industry has said that niche is the new mass market. And I truly do believe that building community, a community that knows you, that trusts you, is incredibly important, because the future is about trust. It is about curation. I run a WhatsApp channel called Tech Magic, and that has proven to be one of the best things I've ever done, where I share what I'm reading, what I'm seeing, and people find it extremely valuable. If I'm looking around corners, they're looking around corners with me, and they trust me. Instead of a lot of AI slop that you get thrown, in these places, it's actually curated. And I feel like there's going to be a place further, like for communities. I think media is going to change in the idea of this mass market broadcast media.
And is your WhatsApp group open to everybody or just specific groups of people?
So we hit our limit, sadly. We have way too many people wanting to be a part of it. So we hit our limit. Sometimes when some people leave, because people just end up leaving, there's ways to add more people. But right now we actually just hit maximum number again. So I usually make a call on LinkedIn and say, hey, there's spots, jump. And like people always get in.
All right, I'm gonna sign up for the waiting list.
Yeah.
How should global content companies prepare for the tensions and opportunities of this new frontier?
Think like startups, build lean. I think the days of giant teams, giant production teams are no longer going to happen. I think we're going to see more and more smaller companies with smaller teams that are making a lot of money. So that in essence will change corporate America. That's one thing I would say. Prepare for that. So it behooves you to be a better leader and have empathy, and you're going to spend a lot more time with people. And then I think for anyone out there, don't be short-sighted. I was recently talking to Shira Lazar, who has a podcast called the AI Download. And she was talking about this AI startup founder that wants to replace every job, every white-collar job possible. And I could see how a CEO would be like, oh, this is great. This is going to be great for profit. But those are short-term gains. This is the crux of the thing. If you eventually automate absolutely every job in that, let's say in that place, and do not have a human in the loop, then eventually the CEO gets replaced. But also your shareholders will make some money now, but in 25 years, there's not going to be any workers left. So no one is making a salary. And if there's no UBI, who's going to buy your products or service? So doesn't that impact at the end of the day for the next quarter century what your company does and sells? Unless you're only selling to robots, then I don't know. So yeah, I think that there's this this interesting perspective that no one's really talking about of like, if you really automate absolutely everything, who's going to have money to buy anything? Then, what happens to Amazon? What happens to Walmart? You're only going to sell to robots. Well, I don't know if the robots are going to use the makeup.
Agree. And that's where all those micro communities start popping up. We start seeing all these people becoming, necessity is
Mhm.
the mother of invention. We're going to start
Mhm.
seeing really cool things coming out of that. Right now there are a lot of people out of work in the creative space, and you are one of those people you've always been ahead of everything. Can you think about those people that are out there that are
Yeah.
extremely, extremely talented? I mean, I have EVPs,
Yeah.
SVPs, the top of the chain, and also the younger ones who are
Yeah.
the coordinators, the APs, the PAs. And everybody's asking me the same thing. Like, what do I do? What technologies do I embrace right now that are going to prepare me for this next wave that I know nothing about? Can you give a little bit more insight? Like, what can these people do? Where could they go learn?
Here's what I would tell, and this is the homework I'm going to give all your listeners. If you go home today, sit down and think about what is one idea you have in mind that you've wanted to create or that you want to create. Dream it up, whatever it is, right? And then try to sit down and find a way to build it because it has never been easier to build. So whether it is using a tool like Lovable.dev to create an app or create a website or launch something, like now without knowing a line of code, it doesn't mean it's always going to work and it's going to be great, but without knowing a line of code, you can create these things. Like I am a super augmented human now with using tools like Lovable, right? Give yourself that challenge, even if it sucks, even if it fails, even if it doesn't look like you wanted it to, you pushed yourself to try to build with these tools. And these tools are easy to use. Literally, you have to know how to prompt and write. And it's you don't have to be a prompt engineer because these things they optimize the prompt nowadays. Get in there and use these tools like Lovable, for example. You can start doing things that you never thought you were able to do.
Tell us about Lovable.
Yeah, so Lovable.dev is a vibe coding tool, let's call it that, where you can create apps or you can create websites. For example, I'm redoing my website and I'm doing it myself. I can write in text and be like, let's take this photo, make it like a circle outline, put it in the middle. No, I don't like it. Move it to the right and move it up higher. Okay, add this text here. Or what text do you think I should have here? Add this image, make this into a carousel. Like everything that you would want it your website to be, now you can actually using a tool like Lovable, create the website of your dreams. So yeah, using these tools, I think using that homework of going and creating this crazy idea, whatever it is. If it's a game, you're starting to have so many like text to world building tools. Roblox recently at TED actually demoed this thing where they were writing kind of like the prompt and it would create a 3D world. So like these things are starting to happen where the tools have never been easier. It's democratized in some ways. So use them. This is an advice. I can't remember where I saw it. But for example, if you're looking for a job and in your resume, you say, I help teams, blah, blah, blah. Don't say that. Say, I am a team builder and I build things. Like be very clear and like use these types of words. Not like I help teams. Blah, blah. No, no, no. Like I am a team builder. I am this. I am a, instead of like, I know how to use AI tools. No, I am an AI builder. I can build things using Lovable. I can use tools, like really, really try to do those things. So yeah, I would give him that homework. I was reading an article, I think it was in CNBC, of this woman that got laid off at Meta about a year and a half ago. And she went into prompt engineering and prompt writing. And now she's at this, the head of the spear when it comes to AI. So you just never know where your talents are going to be used.
So you coined the term direct to avatar.
Yeah.
What's the next term that we need to look for in the next 2 years or beyond? What other term are you going to coin next?
Well, I have the tech intimacy scale. So I've got that. I don't
I
know.
like
Let
that
me
one.
think about it. I think like space commerce is going to be something. Let me think about something in space commerce. I don't know.
We'll be following
Planet
you and your,
marketing.
yeah.
So, I don't know. But I will say when that term came to me and it was someone that brought it to me and then we wrote the article together, that article definitely changed the trajectory of my life. When I said is direct to avatar the next direct to consumer, because right after I published that, I had means people in C-suite at major brands reaching out to me on LinkedIn and saying, "Oh my gosh, you put into words what I was thinking. How do we work in this space?" I mean, I got to work with Ralph Lauren, with Nike, with Louis Vuitton, with Walmart. I introduced Walmart to Roblox. Now look at everything that they're doing. I built their first world in Roblox. So I don't know. That really changed my life. So yeah, I think some new things are coming my way with kind of new things in the tech and relationship space.
Probably going to be love and space. Somewhere in there.
I already got asked the question about, love and space. It's interesting, but that's for another podcast.
I love that. What trends are you seeing that are overhyped and or something that's flying under the radar that we should be looking at?
Right now, I'm spending a lot more time thinking about two things. One, on the tech side, I'm diving deep into quantum computing, but more so quantum communications and quantum sensing. So the possibilities of quantum.
What's quantum communications?
So it is using quantum computing to accelerate communications. For example, the news recently about us being able to sense a sign of life in a different galaxy. Those are examples of quantum communicating. So being able to kind of interpret those signs and kind of verify those sorts of things. So interstellar communications is part of that.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah. So it'll be interstellar. Yeah. So I'm not an expert. I'm educating myself. I'm learning a lot more. I've been spending time at Nokia Bell Labs, at Bell Labs with their AI team and their quantum team and learning about that. I'm really interested in space technology and space commerce. I truly do believe there is going to be a new frontier there. I've been involved in a couple of space projects in the past. I don't talk about it a lot, but yeah, that's kind of one of the verticals that I've been going into over the last couple of years. Very keen to see kind of how that all unfolds. And I think on a personal level, I'm looking at the future of relationships, the future of dating, the future of love, how I can become a part of that, in the sense that I am coming at it not from a relationship perspective. I'm not a therapist, but I have taken some coaching classes, but I'm coming at it more as a tech futurist and what I know to be true and how these technologies are used. So I'm launching something called the Tech Intimacy Scale. And basically it helps you realize, are you in level 1 where you're using technology to be better connected to your partner? Or are you in level 5, which is more technology used for isolation? So there's a scale in between, so that people start to gauge, like, where am I? How am I using technology? Am I using technology in a better way to stay connected with my partner? Or am I using it to lose connection? Tech is a new love language, and there are tech attachment styles and all these sorts of things, because you cannot divorce technology from the way we currently live. So I think that there's this moment of helping people understand that technology doesn't always have to be bad. You can still use it to further your connection.
You were on the TEDx stage and you were talking about future of love, tech intimacy. I'm calling it the AI matchmaking case study. Tell us a little bit more about that. From beginning to end, how did you come up with it? What did you do? How did you execute? Because then you got on the stage and you told everybody about it and you had results.
Yeah, this is the big TED conference. So everyone knows TEDx, which are the local TEDx, but there's TED. Big TED happens once a year in Vancouver. And I got to go this year. I had already been thinking about doing something in this space because I got divorced and I got back into dating. Like, it's like I took a time traveling machine and had to go back to dating. Like, when I stopped dating, you dated on a website. That was the beginning of like eHarmony or like Match.com, but on a website. There were no apps. Right? So then time traveled to like this world where you're dating in apps, and I've had fun. It's been pretty good, but it's not a great experience. So I was like, what can be better? What can you do better? And I was doing a lot of research. I came across something called the Matchbox algorithm, which had become viral in New York, where you show up in person at these dating events, and then the algorithm matches you with someone there based on a questionnaire. So I was like, okay, this is really interesting. I got access to their software, and I was going to host an event in DC, but then I decided to cancel, and I go to TED. I'm at TED, right, as a hopeful single. And then I hear on stage one of the founders of Kickstarter talk about his new thing that he was doing, but he also mentioned that he met his significant other at TED. And then on the hallways and other places, they were all like, oh, we met at TED, or I met my wife at TED. Like, I heard it throughout TED. And I'm like, what is it about TED, about this moment where you have this group of people, all curious, great thinkers come together? This is a great place to meet someone that would probably be like-minded. So I said, well, I'm going to run an experiment. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to use the software, this Matchbox algorithm, and see what happens. So I put out this call on social media and said, I'm running this experiment. I put it in all my WhatsApp groups. I said, hey, if anyone wants to do this, once again, it's an experiment, right? So I sent it out. What we ended up having was 9 people signed up. Mind you, this is like a couple thousand people at the event, right? But only 9 people signed up. The brave souls, I called, 9 people signed up, mostly women, because women tend to be a little bit more like, okay, I'll do the experiment. And then out of those, 2 couples clicked. There were matches. And then one of them actually had 100% match, which means they answered all the questions from the algorithm asked, like, in the same way. 100%. I haven't followed up to see if they're still dating, but I thought that was interesting. The night before the last day of TED, you are able to submit a response or like something that you want to share on stage, whether it's a response to a talk or whether it's a response to something that you lived through at TED or you experienced. So I said, I'm going to pitch this. I'm going to tell them that I did this experiment. And they selected, I think it was like 15 of us to be part of that town hall to come on the TED stage on the big red circle and share what their response is or what they did. So I went on stage. They asked me to be a part of this. And I talked about my AI matchmaking experiment at TED. And you cannot believe how many people have reached out after that. I'm like, I wish I would have known. I would have done it. Or you should do it at this event. I think it's opening up kind of like a new pathway for me. It's exciting.
I don't know. I see a show idea here. So
Netflix, call me.
We should speak after this.
Absolutely.
How do you advise brands to balance innovation and inclusion so that tech doesn't just scale, but scales ethically?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about who your consumer is. I think was it Lowe's or Home Depot? I cannot remember, but I remember one of them was talking about initially where they were going to introduce some type of service that delivered things at your house. It was a little intrusive because they would like kind of come into your house, and they realized that a lot of women that needed home repairs and they hired these people to do home repairs didn't necessarily want this person coming in when they weren't there. Like there was this whole thing because they didn't feel safe. So things like that. Or I'll give you this example. This one I heard at TED. I was talking to this young woman. We were talking about the future relationships and stuff. She was riding a Waymo with her friend. They had come from a party and they were laughing, having a great time in the back of the Waymo and like screaming their little heads off, singing songs, and they didn't have to worry about the driver. They could sing as, as loud as they wanted. And I said to you, I love that. But I said, did you feel safer? She said, actually, yeah, because I wasn't thinking the driver might do something to me. The driver might, take the wrong turn and drive me to the airport and I'm going to get trafficked. So that was a really interesting moment where I said, I don't know if the Waymo people have thought about that, but if I'm coming out of a club and maybe I had a couple of drinks and I'm driving, like I'm having one of them drive me home, I might take a Waymo instead of an Uber.
It's like when they park the taco trucks outside the clubs, they're gonna start parking all the Waymos outside the clubs.
Yeah, why not?
What's one lesson from gaming or fashion that every media executive should be applying to their strategy right now?
I would say remain fluid. Like I feel like things, especially in today's TikTok age, trends come and go so incredibly fast. I think it's hard for media and advertising folks nowadays to understand how fast things move, right? Or to adapt their budgets. So remain fluid, adapt new technologies, experiment, and absolutely the most important thing is remain curious. Just because you've done it the same way for the last 10, 15 years doesn't mean that's the way you have to do it. Sometimes the youngest person in the room is the smartest person. So remain curious, remain fluid, remain open to new ideas, and yeah, just realize that things are changing.
I love that. Is there anything you want to mention?
Yeah, I continue to do all my consulting work around technology, around what's coming, around the new hardware, and how do you bring AI into the physical world. But I'm also interested in how does that change human relationships? How can we use technology better? Last year, I was I was trying to get funding for a new dating startup focused on gaming called Player 2. And the idea was that I don't think slapping more AI into a dating app is going to make it better or a better user experience. I think it's about shared experiences, whether it's virtual or physical. But I think you can learn a lot by someone even before you meet them in the physical world if there's a chance for you to do a virtual experience. So whether it's virtual bowling or doing a virtual meal or doing a virtual escape room, you can learn a lot with someone if you're doing something with them, if it's virtual. I mean, and you and I have had those experiences in VR where you're doing something, it feels real, right? It's like a memory, like, oh, I got to hang out with so-and-so. It was in VR, but I hung out with them. So I think that there is that opportunity to create these virtual shared experiences that then lead us into the physical world and to meet. But there is this big disconnect right now, which is still very 2D when you use these apps. And I was trying to bring more of that. The VCs just weren't ready to invest in that right now because the dating app world isn't doing great. But I still think that there's a lot of hope. I think gaming, I think the right use of AI, and I think bridging into IRL with some type of way is going to be critical for the future of dating apps.
I think you should definitely do the AI dating app, matchmaking dating app.
Yeah.
You should pitch it on Shark Tank.
I should. Wouldn't that be fun?
Should. You definitely should. I think one of the sharks would definitely go for it.
Yeah. Well, if one of the sharks was single, then it'd be like, hey.
I'll take that one.
Yes.
Cathy, thank you so much. This has been so exciting. Where can our listeners and viewers find you?
Yes, so I am Cathy Hackl, CathyHackl, Hack with an L, across social. My biggest channels are LinkedIn and Instagram, so find me there. LinkedIn is more of my business content, and then Instagram is going to be more of that relationship tech content. I also have a podcast on Adweek called Tech Magic. And yeah, I've got books and everything, always sharing information out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to our show. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us at The Media Machine Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. The Media Machine is hosted by Johanna Salazar. Our producers are Mia Vinciguerra and Johanna Salazar. This episode was edited by Adriana Saravia. This episode features music from Envato Elements. Thanks for listening.